David, it's so nice to have you here at our booth of Edra Publishing. Maybe you can tell us a little bit about your background. How and when did you decide to become a dentist?
Kind of an interesting story, actually, in that I decided to become a dentist. Wanted to become an orthodontist, and like a lot of people, I really enjoyed my orthodontic experience. I grew up in a very small town, and so my mother and I would take a train to about a 1 hour ride to a larger city so I could have my orthodontic treatment. I was the fourth of four children, and so for me, there was a little bit of an emotional aspect to it that I got to actually spend an hour with my mother. But it also turned out that my orthodontist took a lot of time with me, and we would always have an 11 o'clock appointment and have lunch at noon. So it was like a social time where I got to know him. To sum it up, at the end of the day, at the end of my, and back in those days, your initial appointment to get your appliances on was the day, because they had to pinch bands and so forth. Well, at the end of the day, I realized that he was a very happy person. He had a happy day. He enjoyed his work. And I decided then that, this looks like a good job. And so I was in the 10th grade, 11th grade in high school, and I decided I didn't shadow anybody. I didn't do all the things that kids do now. I just decided, I think I'll be an orthodontist. I didn't know how long I had to go to school or anything until I got into it, and then it was too late to turn around. So anyway, that was really probably just simply by looking for having a job that made me happy, and he was happy, so I decided that was really a pretty easy decision for me. As I got into the school and as I progressed through it, I got even more and more enthusiastic about what I did, partially because really the centerpiece, I think, of what I do in my career is all about people and being helpful to people and being useful and doing good things. That sounds kind of pie in the sky, but that's how I felt.
Doing good things to people is maybe the main part of your day in your practice. Maybe you can tell us a little bit more about your day, typical day in your practice.
Well, a typical day, someone had just asked me this question that as I was coming into this arena here, that I have employees who've been with me anywhere from 39 to 22 years. So my days are actually pretty organized for me when I come in, that I have a very well-trained team, and I really tell people that they're more in charge of things than I am. If you ask me a question on where anything is, I have to defer to one of my team members to tell me where something is, because I don't really know how to operate our cone beam machine or anything like that. Now, that's taken 42 years of orthodontic practice to get there, but I think we had it together probably 20 years ago, where now we've I like to use the practice management. This is just my description of it, is that when we start off, we've got boulders to deal with, large obstacles to a successful practice, and this is what we do in our staff meetings. We talk about breaking boulders into rocks, and rocks into pebbles, and pebbles into dirt, and dirt into sand, and the finer we can get, the better we are. And so we focus. We have a yearly retreat. We used to have weekly, 1 hour staff meetings. All that has been ground down to a yearly retreat where we go through all the missions of what we plan to deliver for our patients. That's experience, the outcomes, and then the money gets planned around it so that the practice is successful financially, because we stay true to the mission of delivering good care and experience to our patients.
That sounds like a lot of work, but maybe we can have a look to your book. It's not published yet, but maybe you can tell us a little bit about the topic. What are some of the key highlights in your planned book?
Well, the topic is going to be a very broadly based book. I have written I've authored or co-authored 6 books of my own, and so under threat of divorce, I did not want to write another 500-page book on my own. But I've been in the fortunate position of having been in this profession for 40 years, and I've identified young minds who are, in my estimation, up and coming, and the avenue to become a real force in a profession has changed. It used to be, in my generation, your publications or presentations, and that was what you went by. Now it seems to be more social media driven and that sort of thing, but there still has to be a commonality of not just the superficiality of social media, but also the real meat, the real intellectual prowess in what you do, how you think, and the guts of how you treatment plan really is what I'm aiming for. So what I've done is I've selected about 8 people who I know nationally and internationally, and selected them out of my experiences. I know all of them and have been impressed by them, and so right now, at least in the U.S., there appears to be a lag between the older, experienced, published persons like myself and the social media folks who are younger but have real intellectual prowess that I think needs to be brought out in a more formal way and put into a statement kind of book that says, in a way, this is me passing a torch of my generation on to the next generation who will take the lead in the orthodontic profession, which is, by the way, so interdisciplinary now that I don't see this as an orthodontic text. I don't see my last book as an orthodontic text. I see it as an orthodontic, but primarily interdisciplinary, how all of our colleagues working together deliver results like I would never have imagined when I was in my first 10 years of orthodontic practice. Couldn't imagine the things that we do now with all the other professionals and their expertise in what we do.
And what is the audience you're hoping to reach with the book?
Well, my dream is to reach all of dentistry, because I think there's so much about orthodontics that the general dental population doesn't understand because they haven't been exposed to it. A lot of times they blame orthodontists that we don't give any educational time to dental students. Now, I happen to sit on the curriculum design committee at the University of Alabama's School of Dentistry, and I would always be pushing for more time for orthodontic education, and it got pushed aside because the committee was made up of 99% of not orthodontists, and so they didn't see what we did as anything needed to become a dentist. Now when you go at this meeting, for example, there are hundreds of aligner companies out there, and is that good orthodontics? In my mind, a lot of it can be very good, but it can be a lot better. And so what I'm trying to do is educate dentists as to what the possibilities are. That dentist has to decide, what is going to be best for my patient. Or they have to decide, is it the bottom line I'm worried about? For me, it's always what's best for the patient is best for my bottom line. And so I've selected people who are deep thinkers and people who will be leaders in our profession as we go forward.
And David, when we think about the young generation, what advice would you provide for students or young people considering a career in dentistry?
Interestingly, I did a webinar to a millennial generation, and I probably got a little preachy because at the end they said, "You sound like our parents." And I said, "That's because I am your parents." I think the thing that I would emphasize that what I've sort of kept emphasizing this entire interview is I really focused on the meaning of what I did, not worrying too much about the numbers. Now, it was a different era. I didn't owe hundreds of thousands of dollars. I owed a good bit of money, but I didn't owe what is owed today. My wife worked for IBM for 23 years, and so when we got out of residency, we were used to living on her income, and so we decided we were used to being poor. We might as well just stay poor. And so what we did was, decide that we would, by the way, when I got out of my residency program, when we bought a house, the interest rate was 17%, and my practice loan was 18%. So what do you want to do? You want to get rid of debt, like as rapidly as possible. Well, in today's environment, the thing is the interest rates are lower, but we've got higher debt loads. The same thing holds true, though, that you're used to being poor. Work on your craft. Work on what you know, what you were trained, what you need to improve to become 10 years from then a debt-free, excellent orthodontist, dentist who's totally in control of their own future and can make decisions for their patients, which is who you represent, are your patients. Making those decisions for your patient without the pressure of needing the income. Operate freely and without abandon. What you want for that patient would be what you would want for your own family member.
Finally, what or who are you looking forward to seeing at IDS?
At where?
At IDS.
Oh gosh, who am I looking forward to seeing at the IDS? Which, of course, is impossible to see everything that you would want to see. But mostly what my interests have been and have been in my career are technological methodology to be able to see down the road in orthodontics is unique in a sense that it's not a procedure. It is a process. And so one of my main mantras is to try and see ahead in the future and deliver results for patients that keep them functionally, aesthetically, as youthful as possible for as long as possible, which means that you have to take a very long view of what we do as orthodontists, including our colleagues as dentists, to deliver that kind of outcome and maintain it for a lifetime, which means we become a very much like plastic surgeons, that there's a constant tune-up process very often of incisor display, lip support, things that we don't think about a lot as dentists, but those are very important aesthetic things that definitely are part of what we do.
David, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure.
Thank you.